Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Class 1A podcast. My name is Andrew Nimsker, and alongside me as always, I have Dylan Beal. And today we are going to be breaking down some of the most underrated quirks in My Hero Academia by whatever metrics we really decided on. We just said, hey, this would be a fun topic, and then had no conversations after that about how we're going to decide it. So we're both just coming with a couple of quirks to talk about it, and we'll see where that goes, how the logic is. But it's always fun to talk about underrated quirks because we already know what some of the most powerful ones are. We already know who those top characters are. So giving some limelight to characters that you might not remember as much or could be even more powerful than we're giving them credit for is always a fun little topic. Dylan's going to be kicking it off with our first one, but before we do get to that, if you do enjoy this video, of course, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching it here, or if you want to listen to it on the go, or if you are listening on the go, leaving 5-star reviews on podcasting platforms is a huge help. Or if you didn't know, you can listen to it on any podcasting platform across the world, and if there's one that you can't find it on, let me know and I will make sure there. But we've done a pretty good job of being able to make sure you can listen to it anywhere you want. So with that, Dylan, let's cut the intro short as always and jump right into the first underrated quirk that you were bringing today.
Yes, so I'm going to be speedrunning me talking about a character that I love so much. Is it because she has a really underrated quirk, or is it just because I like her so much? I'll let you decide that. Because it is, of course, none other than Miss Joke. I love Miss Joke. She's great, and her quirk is incredibly strong and so slept on. So her quirk is Outburst. Essentially, she tells a joke to somebody, and then they just can't stop laughing. That's it. That's her whole quirk. And it is the most busted quirk of all time. I mean, like, if you really think about it, like, all she needs to do, tell a joke to someone, and they are incapacitated. She has, like, some hand-to-hand moves to help, like, actually arrest people, I guess. But you don't even need that. Like, it could be literally like a toddler says a joke to somebody with this quirk, and then they could deal with the villains. Like, the quirk alone, outside of Miss Joke's like abilities, is incredible. Like, it's so strong that in public she actually has to wear like a gas mask to prevent accidentally telling jokes to other people and incapacitating
Really?
them. Yep.
I did not know that. But so they don't have to find it funny. She just has to tell something that classifies in her brain as a joke.
Yep. Yeah, she just needs to tell the joke. So it's like the act of telling it is what makes the quirk actually go. And it's strong. Now, I don't know if we know the limits of this. Like, can it be through like a microphone or anything like that? But even cutting that out, like the most busted version, obviously, would just be flying in a blimp, out of a bunch of loudspeakers and just incapacitating a city. If we go to just like no tech, no nothing, just being able to walk and just like disarm everybody around you, even if you're yelling the joke, like, it's so incredibly strong.
And I remember when we first were introduced to her, it was around the hero licensing arc, and that I think she used her quirk here in Aizawa. Like, how debilitating is it? Like, is it on the ground laughing, or is it just kind of like laughing that like you can maybe fight through it, or like they truly cannot do anything to
It
counter?
incapacitates you. You are like laughing, like literally rolling on the floor laughing kind of thing.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and so like if you think about it this way, of like, think about Shinzo. We all think Shinzo is incredibly strong, right? Like, I cannot believe how strong Shinzo is. For his quirk to work, you have to hear the voice and respond to it. This is half of that. You just need to hear her voice, and then you're incapacitated. Like, the downsides obviously are if there was a villain who was deaf, or a villain who was like wearing like protective like ear coverings
If
that
you
like
know
blot
you're
out
like
all
in
sound.
their region or something like that, and you can find a way around that, it's easily counterable. But if you're just randomly going up against her,
Yeah, you would have no idea. So I think the most powerful way she could operate is she does rotations throughout like different cities. Like, every once in a while she goes to a different city and helps out like a local like hero team. Boom. Easily. No one would ever see it coming. And like, worst case scenario, everybody prepares for Miss Joke. And then now everybody, like, all the villains just can't hear. Incredibly strong stuff.
and she's got to run a probably even a tighter class than Aizawa does. Because if anyone acts up, she just tells a joke and makes that person go, wait. So is it? Can she control it, or does it affect everyone around her? I think she can control it because she did make
Yeah.
everyone do it. She just made Aizawa do it at the licensing arc.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think there is some control over it for sure.
I mean, I don't even know why. I mean, obviously, there's no arguments against that. I didn't realize it was that straightforward of a quirk. That is
Mhm.
incredibly powerful. Holy shit!
Yeah.
But
It is good stuff, and that is why, I always make sure I can talk about Miss when I can, because her quirk is sick.
yeah, that is super cool. And I guess my quirk is going to be one that is a little bit more familiar to a lot of people, but I just don't think it gets enough limelight. And I want to just give some reasons more of why. And that is going to be Mr. Compress's compressed quirk. I mean,
Nice.
the definition of the quirk is compress allows a user to shrink down anything into the side of a speaker area into a small marble without actually damaging it. So one, we've already seen it for kidnapping, but two, good or bad, he can literally just pick up the whole league of villains, and all he has to do is sneak into someone. And congratulations, it's now 1,000 to 1. Like the number of people he could carry is how many marbles he can fit in a bag. I mean, creating an army in a pocket is literally something he can do. I mean, I remember like, have you seen Ant-Man 2?
Mm-mm.
So in Ant-Man 2, there's some logic. I mean, the movie's super old, but like these allow to shrink little buildings down and shrink cars down, like all that. Like you can literally live your life out of your pockets. You could have your house in your pocket. You could have all your cars in your pocket. You could literally bring a tank to a battle if you want to. Like then there's no limitation on what he do. The only limitation is how prepared he can get, what he can get access to. But then outside of that, he can always have the advantage in every single situation if he wants. We've seen how incredibly agile he is, which allows him to kind of move around that. He could turn the tide of a battle with just what's in his pocket. I think that's incredibly powerful, and we've only really kind of seen his quirk used in more like kidnapping ways. Really, the only time we've seen it used. Like, I hope at some point we see him using it kind of to this battle sense, because you see when you come out of the compress, Tokiyami came out of it during the forest arc, and he seemed fine pretty much right away. So it's not like there's any kind of drawbacks to it.
Yeah, so the one thing I was thinking about with this is, like, what if you just got, like, a big building down, like, into the marble, and you just, like, threw it
Yeah,
into, like, another building? It annihilates it,
yeah.
just completely
It's
annihilates
like
it.
D&D rules, like when you just drop something really heavy from really high. Like it's the same logic here. Yeah. Oh yeah, you just grab a couple of buildings from so far away from UA and just go throw buildings at UA. Like from my understanding, it seems that he first needs to touch the target with his hand. I don't know if he has to. Yeah. But yeah, you can even see like he snaps to release Tokiyami. Like I'm looking at a GIF right now, so he doesn't have to be like touching it when he releases it. So I'm sure there's some limitations and stuff on that, but you've seen how much you can train quirks, so I'm sure you could train the distance to which you release something. I'm sure you could. Maybe there's limitations on how big of stuff he can do, but even so, even if it's limited to body size things, there are bombs and mortars and all kinds of stuff like that. Like if you want to get like, you don't need to drop a whole building. Like he really can be a one man army, literally with the reinforcements or with the amount of stuff you could throw at people.
What do you think it's like inside of one of his compressed marbles?
I would love to know. I hope someone like in a side story or something like that, like maybe the Forest Arc one or the one like right after Forest Arc where they the not the team up missions. They have the um
Full briefs?
school briefs. I hope someone asked Tokiyami that. Like I would love to know, or Bakugo, that like what it's like, because
Oh, yeah.
they're the only ones that would know that be able to answer that question. But I wanna, I don't know what happens when you go inside a Pokeball, but I wanna think it's the exact same situation of whatever happens to Pokemon happens to people inside Mr. Compress's
Well
balls.
well, like, the thing with, like, Pokemon is, like, when we see them get sucked up into the Pokeball, it's like they get turned into, like, energy, right?
Yeah.
So it, like, makes sense that they're, like, vibing in the energy. This, they just get, like they literally get compressed down into it.
Yeah. I don't know. I cannot imagine it's great. Like I'm trying to read.
Maybe it's cool, like, maybe you actually go in there and it's like a little, like, hotel, it's a really nice hotel. Like, you can just chill out for a little bit. Oh, d wait, can he get in his own compressed balls, you
Yes,
think?
you can. Compress even use his
Oh.
own body if needed. That's cool.
That's okay, that's pretty good, like, you just it's a perfect hiding thing, right? It's like you compress down and you just, like, live inside this thing for a little bit while you're hiding, and then, like, you pop out whenever, like, the people go away.
Yo, but like he can even use it on certain body parts. So like he could just like kind of touch your chest and just take your chest away. God, that's terrifying. Like he doesn't
Oh,
have
no,
to.
that's broken, yeah.
He doesn't have to take the whole body. He can take whatever he wants. So if he just wants to take away your chest, well, congratulations. just bring your chest back isn't going to save you.
Wait, that's a stronger overhaul.
Yeah, kind of.
He is stronger than Overhaul. If he can do that, he is stronger than Overhaul.
Yeah, but he has the same. I don't like his costume either. Him and Overhaul both need to work on their costumes.
What do you mean? It's sick. Okay.
Overhaul is good, but not great.
I think we talked about this before. Mr. Compressus is really cool. Okay, the Magician is so sick. It's such a sick angle.
No,
it's so silly. It's stupid. It's perfect for a villain. I love it.
All right, what's your next one? I don't want to fight about costumes for the next 8 hours, otherwise I could.
All right, well, in trying to keep you very upset, my next person is, of course, Mineta, our little purple boy that we hate so much. And his quirk, Pop Off, which essentially allows him to pull sticky balls from his head and stick them onto anything, and they regenerate over time. His regeneration speed is increased as the longer he trains his quirk. But it is pretty fast right now. And I think we are sleeping on this a lot.
Are we?
These are incredibly sticky. They're very sticky. So they can be used for offense. You throw a sticky ball, and if anyone touches the sticky ball and the ground, they're now locked in place. It's really good for offense in doing that. You can use it defensively, like you can fortify an area. You can use it as a support quirk. Say if there is a building that's about to collapse, a bridge that's falling down, all you need to do is use the sticky balls and stick them on there, and they're going to stick. So perfect support there. You can provide assistance in a ton of ways. It is so versatile of a quirk. It's unreal. You take these sticky balls and you just coat an area with it, and now people can't walk through there. This is really strong. Such a strong quirk, and I understand. Listen. I hate Mineta. He's awful. He's terrible. But he has an incredible quirk.
Everything you said that he could just do, I think Sero's tape could do better.
Sero's tape's not sticky. It's not that sticky. It's not that sticky.
It
doesn't stick in the same way. Of where if you touch Mineta's purple sticky ball, that's it. You're done. It's over. It's like one of those sticky traps that rats get into, of where they're like, oh dang, I'm stuck here, and they literally rip themselves apart trying to get out. That is Mineta's trap here.
I agree, and maybe I'm struggling to separate the user from the quirk, and whatever, Mineta, we make fun of him, we're a dick to him, but I'm just trying to think of. I understand how sticky it is. I just think it's limited to only as far as he can throw it. So great, a building is collapsing. He has to be where that building is collapsing, the collapsing point. Everything you're saying he has to do, they have to be within a 10-foot range of him happening. Which is why I think Sero's tape on this side, which is kind of like an honorable mention for me almost, he has mobility. So that's not even just with the person. One quirk has mobility to do things that you just said to a lesser extent, but could do it more effective, while Mineta's, well, great. I mean, if Muscular is within 10 feet of you, great, you can stick him, but he can still probably beat the shit out of you.
No, but that's why you're preventative. You put them in place before the fight. Also, he can get them into a rope and whip them with it. So it gives him range, and you forget how small he is. Canonically, he can be thrown.
Nope. We're talking about underrated quirks.
The reason why he's so tiny is because of the quirk.
Yeah, what, he's supposed to look like a grape? Is that
yeah?
Come on.
Yeah, humans aren't normally that short.
They actually aren't. That is true.
It has to be a mutation quirk then.
Okay, I'll give you that one. I'll allow you to have that. So yes, he can be thrown. I don't know.
No, think about this. The ultimate, you take him, you pick him up, and you throw him, and he has his whip that's full of the purple balls that don't look into too much of what it looks like. Just ignore that part. But then he just goes forward and just sticks someone. Easy.
Maybe, I think I told you, put it in the middle. Maybe you should have let off with this, because after leading up with Mr. Compress and Miss Joke, this just seems pathetic, if I'm being honest. This doesn't seem underrated when you talked about Mr. Compress that can summon an army or instantly kill someone, or Miss Joke that can take out an entire city with a single joke. This seems very, very
okay, fine. What is your next one?
Rated.
What is your next one then?
Another one that's gonna make Mineta seem very small. 13's black hole. In an instant, this quirk can destroy pretty much anything it wants. It clearly needs a little bit of a buildup. But, I mean, again, thinking of how much this can be trained. So the quirk, black hole, allows you to create a small black hole through her fingers. So one, we only saw her use like one during the UJ, whatever, USJ attack. And that was a little black hole. She could do 10 of those. So one, she could be doing in multiple different angles, and two, you have to assume another thing you can train up. I mean, you want to talk about being able to take down entire buildings or regular armies. I mean, a black hole is incredibly strong. So I think the fact that she's probably holding back at all time because she's a support hero probably means that if you wanted to use it more of an offensive capacity, it could be devastating.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. Like she's like mostly support, so we're not able to see her really go all out with it. But yeah, like a full all out 13 is actually kind of scary. Could just level an entire city. And like if like think about this, like if she just took it and like kind of like spread it all around her, how could you even fight her at that point?
You
right?
don't. And like kind of a comment here. So one of the team up missions is that she really doesn't like using it for offensive capacity, but she uses it for incapacitating enemies because you can just suck them back to you, and then right as they're about to get close to you, you just stop. So even as like a kind of like a sidekick hero, no one's getting away from a black hole. So if even like one of the slime monsters or anything like that, kind of it really, there's no limitation to what it can work on. Even if they can change forms or anything like that, she can just pull it to whatever she's working with, and there you go. You can capture any villain, or you can just kill him if you wanted to. But I don't think that's really the hero way to do it. So I think that's
where do they go when they get stuck up?
They get just fall. They're like turned into atoms because all absorbed material gets reduced to atoms. Like it destroys anything. Like it's a black hole.
Yeah, that would just, you could just kill people with that.
Yeah.
That's I'm here for that one. Actually underrated.
Like I mean, when you think about it for 2 seconds, like something that can summon a black hole is incredibly powerful, which is probably why they made her just a rescue hero. Because if you do that in any kind of battle sense, that is very, very strong.
Yeah, and we just level everything.
All right, what do you got?
Okay, for my
Better
last
than Mineta,
one,
please.
Okay, my last one's actually good. It is Manga, also known as Comic Man. So his ability is called Comic, and he can essentially take any onomatopoeia and make it happen. So he writes boom, and there is an explosion. Like he says it, but it gets turned into like actual text, like physical text that does the onomatopoeia. So this is really strong because like there is onomatopoeia for like everything out there. Even JoJo's has taught us that there's onomatopoeia for just a looming dark presence. So you could really do anything with this.
What is the onomatopoeia again?
It is like when you punch something, and it's like bam, pow, pop. Like any of the words that represent like a sound, basically.
I was trying to think back to JoJo's of what that'd be, but go on.
And so think about this, right? Manga rolls up to a place, makes the sound for like a sleeping gas. The gas fills the area. He is in a plane. He makes the onomatopoeia for a nuclear bomb dropping, and it drops. Like he could do anything with this. He can make fire happen. He can make water happen. He can make a hurricane happen. Like there is almost no limits to this. Like if it can be described vaguely in an onomatopoeia, you can make it happen. I think the versatility of this is what really gets it, and the fact of like you don't need anything except for him to just speak it into existence.
I guess I need to look up a list of onomatopoeias and like see everything you could do, because clearly you kind of have a better idea of like some of the ones that you could use. So I mean, I completely believe you when you say there's something you can almost kind of do with it, but almost hard for me not knowing a ton of like coming up with different like fun ideas here and there. But I can't argue it. I think what I've seen though is that I guess we've seen them use walls, explosion, stuff kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it doesn't do them, maybe unless you can think of words like It doesn't do any good at close quarters though, does it?
It could. I mean, like, why couldn't it? Like, you're
Yeah, I
up
guess you could
close.
say like a gust, like or something like that, and
Yeah,
blow
yeah.
people
You
back.
you
Like,
can make a gust to blow someone back. You can make a sound for, like, a really sticky area, and people get stuck in that, like, a very swampy one. Because we already seen him do, like, humidity. Like, he did
oh
onomatopoeia
yeah,
for humidity. Like, it really can just be anything. Like, you can change the entire battlefield. You can just set bombs off everywhere. You could light the place on fire. Like bare minimum, you're saying bam and you're like throwing out punches and you're setting areas on fire. Bare minimum, if you only use that, it would still be underrated quirk.
yeah,
Still be incredible. And the only limit to it is his voice getting too hoarse.
yes. Which seemed to come quickly. I mean, that it was like what? It's like a 10-minute fight, and that seemed to pretty. But again, that's the user, not the quirk necessarily,
Yeah,
and
you can train it.
that could be trained. It feels like that is a bigger drawback than most other quirks, though. I mean, like especially when we talk about Miss Joke, that's never going to happen to Miss Joke. That's never going to happen to Mr. Compress. I mean, Mineta kind of had a limitation there too, and where that quirk causes him to bleed and causes him a little bit of harm. Black hole, that would never happen. I think with a lot of the strongest quirks, there's not a ton of blowbacks. I mean, I mean, you're looking at Todoroki's. I mean, he can get too hot and he can get too cold. Deku obviously kind of hurts himself, but now that Deku's at a point where he's not, there's no drawbacks to his Deku's quirk anymore. So I agree that it is incredibly powerful, but I still think it's a tier below like Compress and Joke, where there's really no limits to their quirk. Where this one, I mean, someone that can deafen someone, you get something on, like you get one of Mineta's balls in Jesus in my comic man's mouth. He ain't doing nothing no more. Jesus, I didn't even think about that. So there. I mean, there is an easy way to kind of, but I guess that same thing can go for Miss Joke. So
Yeah.
I guess you can counter anything, but I still love this quirk. I don't know Monometers as much as I can, but it feels like it's easily counterable more than other ones. But it still sounds incredibly powerful with kind of how you explained it.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's underrated.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and I sadly don't have a full third one. I mean, I have Sero as an honorable mention. I thought Ed's shot, his folding ability. I mean, is that underrated? It was kind of something that I kind of thought about. I mean, he's a top 5 hero.
Yeah, not underrated.
No,
Not
I think
underrated.
to like fans, it's underrated. That a lot of people don't think of how cool it is and how many usable it is. But like in the universe, it's not underrated. That was kind of one that I was thinking about. So there's a bunch of other ones where I was kind of on the edge. But do you have any honorable mentions or anything else you kind of thought about and didn't go all the way through with?
No, I think those were the big ones that at least stuck out to me, that I thought were incredibly, incredibly powerful.
Yeah. So
I think the only one actually is Kendo's. I guess that would be an honorable mention, just for the fact of like, not that her quirk is underrated and strong, but I think they made a mistake that makes it busted. Of where they said Momo had a tungsten shield and she crushed it, which
yeah.
is like, like the science behind that makes it like, oh, she has one of the most powerful quirks of all time, because like
she's literally Hulk when she makes her fist
yeah,
big.
no, like could have chosen any metal, literally any other metal, and it's like, okay, very reasonable quirk. Tungsten though is like so strong that like she like her grabbing something is like the equivalent of like nuclear bombs going off.
Jesus.
Like it's something insane.
And if I would have made an argument for Momo's quirk being underrated, would you have bought that, or do you feel like that's correctly rated? Because I feel like I've talked about that before in like some of my favorite quirks, most powerful quirks. So I think it can go either way. So I think it could be seen as a powerful one, but I could also think it can kind of be seen as an underrated one.
I don't think it's quite underrated, because I feel like it's rated at the point it is because of its drawback. Because its drawback is pretty big.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, that was my last one. That I love Momo's quirk, kind of like how you love Miss Joke. Whenever I get a chance to talk about Momo's quirk, because I think it's just so cool. But I just didn't think it was going to be good for this one. But I think that's all we're going to have for today. Then we don't have too many honorable mentions. But obviously, anyone in the comments, anyone listening and watching, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up in the YouTube comments. What do you think some of your favorite underrated quirks are? If you agree or disagree with any of me and Dylan's kind of picks, we have the community tab too, Dylan. Why don't you throw that up on YouTube too? If you haven't already, you might have.
Yeah.
What some of the unpowered quirks are, or I mean underrated. I'm sorry, but that'll be all for this week's episode. We'll be back next Saturday, of course, and we will be continuing to do the manga and vigilante recaps with both series seeming to come towards the end if you are keeping up to date with it. So it is getting spicy each and every week. So make sure to stay up to date with those as well by following us over on podcasting platforms or hitting us up on youtube.com/class1a and subscribing to us over there. But that'll be all for today. We will see you guys next week.